Hello, my friends. My name is Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide context in the war in Ukraine. I want to talk about Russia's potency. I saw this in the on Twitter today. This is Randy Mott. Randy Mott's a conservative Republican, not MAGA, old school Reagan type Republican. And I agree with his analysis here. I am more confident than ISW is willing to say. Russian troops are more poorly trained on average every day, and their equipment is and support is more antiquated and effective every day. Like they keep running themselves down. Okay, so some of you may not like Randy Mott. I've heard another YouTube commentator talk disparagingly about him. That's okay. I think he's spot on many things, including this point. So does Andrew Perpetua, who said it's true. The moment Ukraine has more ammo than Russia, and when Russia is forced to rely on new production vehicles after their stockpiles are exhausted, Russia will be in tremendous trouble. So both of these guys are agreeing on that. And then when you follow through to this link from the study of war, which you see from Andrew Perpetua, is this ISW article, Russia cannot defeat Ukraine or the West. Now, this was about 4 days ago, something like that. I saw this and I was like, And so it's been brewing in the back of my mind ever since. So I looked at this and I thought, they're right. And they're not right, but mostly right. They're right about the basic thesis, but what Russia has is a massive manpower abundance and a morality that will allow them to just throw these lambs to the slaughter. And because of that, they don't have the issue until they have the issue. Until they have the issue where their stockpiles are exhausted, then they're going to be in tremendous problem. But, as far as their ability, seem stronger than they would be because of those two factors I just listed. And the Ukrainians on their side have problems with being able to manage their lines because they need more people to be able to rotate troops and things along those lines. So there's more to it, but I think they're at base correct. Okay, Ukraine faces a retreat without U.S. aid, Zelensky says, and this just came out a couple days ago. Here's another article in France 24. Ukraine fortifies its front lines in anticipation of a new Russian offensive this summer. That is, if they're building defensive lines and not on the offensive, we're seeing a scenario where this is not ending this year. It's going on beyond that. I think I can say that pretty confidently at this point because of what they've been starved out from having the ammunition that they've had to ration this entire time. And it's terrible to recognize, but I think that's a fair statement. That's my version of, as far as a crystal ball goes, my understanding of reality. Okay, here's the ISW denying Russia's the article from which it came, but I'm not showing you that because of Russia's military strength, but rather because of their propaganda strength, and I'll show you what I mean in just a moment. Denying Russia's only strategy for success, March 27, 2024. Russia cannot defeat Ukraine or the West, and will likely lose. But it's predicated on something. If the West mobilizes its resources to resist the Kremlin. So it's not a matter of might, it's a matter of will. And if the West doesn't get their act together, and the United States, we're the chief offender, and the chief offender are the Republicans, and I totally get that. And 6 months, man, 6 months that we've been delaying, and now there's a silver lining here, but there's a very dark cloud. The dark cloud is that it's caused Ukraine to be on their back foot for a long time now, and they lost Avdiivka largely because of this. They have been on the defensive, and they've been having to move their lines back largely because of this. And every meter that they lose, they have to take back later on, and it's going to be more costly. But the silver lining is that France has stepped up, and Germany's starting to step up, and God bless the Czech Republic. I mean, Peter Pavel is my new hero. Like they've stepped up in a big way. So that I don't know that would have happened if they hadn't seen the dithering on our part, and that's unfortunate. They should not be doing that. I don't want them to. I want them to get this done. And what will the aid look like? My guess is it'll be some kind of modification, including some kind of loaning feature, but something sooner than later needs to get there, definitely. Okay, at any rate, okay, so they can't defeat the West if the West mobilizes its resources to resist the Kremlin. The West's existing and latent capacity dwarfs that of Russia. The combined gross domestic product, GDP, of NATO nations, non-NATO European Union states, and our Asian allies is over $63 trillion. Compare that with Russia's GDP, which is on the order of 1.9 trillion. Well, what makes Russia think that they're so big and bad? Well, they have a nuclear weapon. And if they didn't have a nuclear weapon, they would look like somebody that got, picked the wrong fight on a TikTok and got beat up and, smeared across the street because they picked the wrong fight with somebody they shouldn't have picked the fight with. That's the reality of where it would be. But their nuclear blackmail continues, and they have been very good at pushing the West back. And to some degree, we have restricted ourselves as well. Okay, let's go on to the next paragraph. The notion that war is unwinnable because of Russia's dominance is a Russian information operation. Yes, this is what they're good at. They're good at Russian disinformation operations. That's their strength. Their strength comes in two places: people and lack of morality, which allows them to just feed people into the wood chipper. That allows them to do things that Ukraine just simply can't or won't do, or both. And in disinformation. Okay, which gives a glimpse of the Kremlin's real strategy and only real hope of success. The Kremlin must get the United States to the sidelines, and they've done that. I mean, we've been on the sidelines for the last 6 months, allowing Russia to fight Ukraine in isolation and then proceed to Moscow's next targets, which Russia will also seek to isolate. The Kremlin needs the United States to choose inaction and embrace the false inevitability that Russia will prevail in Ukraine. Vladimir Putin's center of gravity is his ability to shape will and decisions of the West, Ukraine, and even Russia itself. Like, think about what was going on. He just spent $1 billion on an election that was predetermined. Like, think about that. Wrap your mind around that. But this is what he does. The Russian strategy that matters most, therefore, is not Moscow's war-fighting strategy, but rather the Kremlin strategy to cause us to see the world as it wishes us to see it and make decisions that Kremlin-generated alternative reality that will allow Russia to win into the real world. Okay, so their amazing ability to win a propaganda war, to convince us, well, we shouldn't be doing this, or Russia's not a threat, or whatever. Okay. Those whose perspective aligns with the Kremlin's are not ipso facto Russian dupes. Let me read that again. This is important. Those whose perspective aligns with the Kremlin's are not ipso facto Russian dupes. So if Russia has this perspective and you happen to simultaneously hold a perspective that is on the same page, not everything, obviously, not Ukraine is part of Russia or that kind of thing, but on some issues, if you're on that same page, that doesn't mean that you're duped by Russian. You could concurrently hold the same thing, but then they amplify it and they try to make it more like we're both, to see how close we are on things. The Kremlin links genuine sentiment and even some legitimate arguments to Russia's interest in public debate. They're masterful at this. The Kremlin is also an equal opportunity manipulator. It targets the full spectrum of those making information decisions. It partially succeeds on every side of the political spectrum. And you're like, wait a minute, no. Those bad Republicans, those are the ones. Now, listen, if you're a Republican and you hold conservative values, and then Russians come along and they try to manipulate by pairing these somehow, just because you hold these values doesn't mean that you're wrong. And Russia coming along pairing it, they're trying to amplify that, but they do it on both sides. You'd say, no, they don't do it on both sides. Read Rebecca Koffler's Putin's Playbook. This will show you, like, yes, they do this on both sides. I'll link that below. But and you say, well, Professor Gerdes, I know you're a Republican. Maybe you're just covering up for your side. Okay. Would you believe the Muller report? I mean, if I showed you the Muller report, which Democrats seem to love, and Republicans are like, yeah, whatever. Okay, I read it. Okay, or I read much of it. Okay, the Internet Research Agency carried out the earliest Russian interference operations identified by the investigation, a social media campaign designed to provoke and amplify political and social discord in the United States. It wasn't geared to help necessarily just one side, although it did weigh in against Hillary Clinton, which meant pro-Trump, but also against Bernie Sanders. But it wasn't just that. It was also to amplify both sides. The IRA, Internet Research Agency, was based in St. Petersburg, Russia, and received funding from Russian oligarch. Remember Yevgeny Prigozhin? Yeah, that's where that was. Now let's go down a little bit further. Who did it amplify? IRA Facebook groups active during the 2016 campaign covered a range of political issues and included purported conservative groups with names such as Being Patriotic or Stop All Immigrants or Secured Borders and Tea Party News. That's the conservative side. But there was also this purported black social justice groups, Black Matters, Blacktivist, and Don't Shoot Us. LGBTQ groups, LGBT United, and they say religious groups, United Muslims of America. Okay, so they're trying to sow division wherever they go. This was the strategy, and that's what they do. So remember, let me go back. It targets the full spectrum of those making or informing decisions. It partially succeeds on every side of the political spectrum. Again, what I just read was the Muller report, so I'm not just using a conservative source. This is what they do. They're very, very good at propaganda. Perception manipulation is one of the Kremlin's core capabilities, now unleashed with a full force onto Western public as the Kremlin's only strategy for winning in Ukraine. Did you hear that? Kremlin's only strategy. So let's go back full circle to Randy Mott. I'm more confident than the ISW is willing to say Russian troops are more poorly trained. Yes, that's true. The battlefield, that's the case. But they're making us think there's no way you can win. And if you think you can't do it, what self-efficacy is, you have to have self-efficacy in order to do a thing, or you won't do it. If you think, if I try it, I won't succeed, I don't do it. And so Russia has tampered with American self-efficacy with their propaganda. That's what I'm trying to argue here. And they're very good at the propaganda and maybe not so good on the battlefield. Okay, tell me what you think about that. Am I wrong? Am I right? Put it in the comments below. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and the coffees. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.